I'm David Moldauer, an editor here at Portfolio. Joining me today is Tom Szaky, co-founder and CEO of TerraCycle, and author of Revolution in a Bottle, How TerraCycle is Redefining Green Business. We're going to be talking about the secrets of great small businesses like TerraCycle, although, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, TerraCycle isn't all that small anymore.
No, it all depends how you look at it, but we have been doubling every year in size for the past 5 years, and this year we'll do 10 to 15 million, which I would still consider small, but it's definitely beyond the startup stage.
TerraCycle, the name itself gives a hint as to what you guys do, but can you give us a sort of in brief what exactly TerraCycle's business is all about?
Absolutely. So what TerraCycle does is we have national collection programs for all sorts of waste, whether it's a Mars candy wrapper or a Oreo cookie wrapper, whatever. You can go to our website, sign up, and collect waste. We will pay the shipping, and we'll donate 2 cents for every unit of waste you collect, all funded by major food companies or major consumer product partners. We get the waste in, and then we convert it to products ranging from anything from a kite made from Oreo wrappers to a pencil case made from juice pouches, and then sell that in the world's biggest retailers like Walmart and Target.
What a terrific business model. You're saving the planet, right?
That's right.
And,
absolutely. You in a sense, you win on all sides. We're doing the right thing for the environment by helping remove garbage from landfills, giving people a social mission to do that, and also then donating money which people can bring back to the society, and then actually producing products instead of using virgin materials, using entirely materials that are garbage, which helps eliminate the need for virgin materials and helps eliminate these products from going to waste. So at the end of the day, it wins on all fronts.
Now, see, this is surprising because, typically I think a lot of people feel that, an earnest, sincere effort to help the planet like this one is doomed to failure because typically the people who go behind these projects, the guys like you who are running it, don't seem to know how to run a business. They come from the nonprofit world and they just don't. They can't seem to make the transition into making it actually work as a profitable, ongoing business that sustains itself. What are some of the things? What are some of the tricks that you use that other people with similar ideas might use to get their green startup off the ground?
I think the biggest thing here is that it's a business. Whether it's green or not green, business is business, and you have to have concern for the basic principles of business. Profit, managing budgets, all these things. And the challenge is many times people who do green businesses are more into the idea of doing something green than necessarily doing something that's a business. And that's why you have the sort of gray line between not-for-profit green causes or not-for-profit, or sometimes very low-profit green businesses. And the challenge, I think, that creates this is a lot of green businesses try to go to the nth degree to be as green as absolutely possible. But frankly, there's certain things that are very hard to change. So, for example, we will sell to Walmart, and we're very excited to sell to Walmart, and that's what creates scale. With that said, TerraCycle is also selling the greenest possible products in the world to Walmart. So you do win on all levels. But it's this factor where I think most green businesses like to stay small, like to still run themselves like a cause, and also are looking to do everything, around them in what they perceive in the greenest way possible. And there's certain things that you just have to work within the context of reality and within the context of how things are currently done, and try to change the things that you can without necessarily, bankrupting your shop in the process or creating an unprofitable enterprise.
You mentioned scale. So most people have an idea like this, going national, it's a pretty overwhelming idea, and you've done it pretty quickly. How have you gotten your company big? How have you spread the word? How have you marketed it and publicized it?
One of the key things that we've tried to do is, first, TerraCycle doesn't spend any money on formal advertising, but we've generated a huge amount of PR, during the history of the company. TerraCycle averages somewhere around 5, maybe 10 articles a day. I mean, that's relatively substantial for a company our size. And what we've realized is that, press is into the idea of, a small company doing the right thing for the planet, doing it in as big a way as possible. And we figured out many different avenues for how to generate lots of press. And you can read this in Revolution in a Bottle. I actually put an entire chapter around how to generate lots and lots of media. But there's certain tricks, a couple of examples are when you write a press release, make the press release the story. Put in quotes and photos and everything. Make it very easy for the journalist to write an article. Also, don't hire an agency or a PR agency. Go out and actually get the press yourself, because you are going to be the most excited about your story, not someone else pitching it for you. And there's many other examples that you can look at in Revolution in a Bottle, but we've fundamentally created a big brand without any spend of any kind. Now, the other things we're doing that may be a little bit more complicated is we do have our own TV show with National Geographic Channel called Garbage Moguls that just actually premiered last week, and each episode there follows us as we take a product, make it into a waste stream. Say, episode 1 follows Oreo wrappers, make it into a product like kites and sell it to a major retailer like Walmart. And here's another example of negative cost marketing where we actually get paid to do the TV show, and it's a huge marketing vehicle for us. So what we've tried to do is really focus very heavily on ways you can use the media without spending money on traditional advertising, and there's hundreds of examples out there that create solutions.
I think this has a lot of resonance for people who are sort of coming back to a do-it-yourself aesthetic, and you guys are not just do-it-yourself as far as the company, but do-it-yourself as far as publicizing yourselves and marketing yourselves and taking it all on. But one question that arises is, how do you know how to do all of this? In other words, if someone else has an idea out there for their own green business, where do they develop the skill set that you're obviously wielding very effectively? Do you give a lot of credence to these green MBAs that are popping up, or is it just dive in and you'll figure it as you go along? What do people need beyond obviously your book?
I think fundamentally they have to be willing to fail and willing to try crazy ideas and then willing to learn from them. We don't necessarily know what we're doing all the time. We just try, we fail, or we succeed, and we learn from that experience. And that's the key thing, is that you have to be willing to give it a shot. There is no, I don't think that there is you can read all sorts of books, I think, that will give you good insights on specific things, but at the end of the day, the best way, you can really become an expert in this is to try and fail or try and succeed and to keep doing that.
So your advice is, instead of spending a few years in the training or preparing, learn through your mistakes, and that's what will help you the most in the end.
I think wholeheartedly that's the case. I mean, you should read, and should learn from what other people have done, but you're going to have the best lessons from your own challenges.
Now, looking at your website, which is at TerraCycle.net, I see there's some really interesting products. I mean, essentially, you're taking wrappers and bottles and reusing them and creating other products out of them. Do you have a creative lab? They talk about Martha Stewart. She has these enormous, fantastic Willy Wonka-esque labs where people just sit around all day coming up with neat ways to make cupcakes. Do you guys have a big room where you have a big pile of garbage?
Yes, you're actually absolutely right. We have about 5 different designers in-house. Some work at TerraCycle and some work remotely that fundamentally play with garbage all day long and think about all the crazy things they can come up with it.
Is it clean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we sanitize all the waste, and we work with very specific raw material sets. So one thing we realized is that the challenge with garbage is that it's all mixed together. So fundamentally, the key thing is that you have to separate it, and then you can start making products from it. And so we really work with specific streams. Like, for example, today I know we're working with pet food bags, and what can we come up with a pet food bag? So we always try to work with very specific waste streams to come up with products.
You mentioned that you guys have really moved beyond the startup phase, and that brings up the question of planning. Are you working with a 5-year plan? Do you know where TerraCycle goes next in the short term and the long term, or are you just playing it by the seat of your pants?
Well, you get more and more sophisticated as time goes on. So yes, we have lots of, we sort of look out in a lot of detail in 2 years and try to hit projections that we put forward over a 2-year plan. And then we have a trajectory of where we want to take the company. I think 5 years gets a little bit long on planning, because how would you know what's going to happen, especially in a very dynamic company? So we look out 2 years, year and a half, and then from there it's more just making sure we're on the right general trajectory, if you will.
Well, Tom, this is terrific advice. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great. Thank you for having me.